Good morning. I'm Dr. Peter Ellis, and my background is over 30 years assisting businesses understand how to manage the growth of their business. In particular, I work with owner-managers who have business growing pains and are finding that they're unable to pass through their immediate glass ceiling. As well as having the experience of working with hundreds of firms in many different industries, to assist my clients, I studied the theory of business and gained an MBA majoring in business strategy, a DBA doctorate in business education, and a PhD in business development, scaling, and growth. In my work, I believe in challenging the status quo. I believe in thinking differently. The way I challenge the status quo is by enabling my clients to think differently to how they have done in the past. To think about why their clients would want to buy their product or service, and how to plan their own goals and activities to achieve those ends. In my work, I have a cause, a purpose, and a belief to enable my clients to appreciate that to succeed, they need to discover their cause, purpose, and belief. The reason I'm in business is to help my clients understand why their business exists and why their clients should believe in them. This morning, I'm going to do a talk about managing between generations and how to understand and work with today's hybrid workforce. My talk is entitled Managing Between Generations, How to Understand and Work with Today's Hybrid Workforce. I have a quote. The next generation, they have bad manners and contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love to chat when they should be silent. They contradict their parents and tyrannize their teachers. Children are now tyrants. So I ask you, who said that? And now I'll tell you. Socrates, round about 500 BC. That's 2,500 years ago. So things haven't changed that much. It's not a question of fighting with them. We will, as older generations have for millennia, accept the new ways and work with them. Don't forget, we were once the new generation ourselves. So how are the new generations labelled? Well, the millenniums were born between 1981 and 1996. So they're between 27 and 42 years old. The post-millenniums were born 1997 onwards. So they're up to the ages of 26. Now the millennials, because the retiring generation has been labelled baby boomers, Gen X and Gen Y, they are the current older generation. We are. The retiring generation think of millennials as young people. However, as the baby boomers, etc., are now retiring, millennials are today's influencers, not the boomers. And there is a significant number of millennials, business owners participating in today's seminar. So you are the business influencers of today. And it's the mindset of the next generation that needs to be addressed. as we focus on the future. Millennials went through school as computers, the internet, and smartphones and computer games mentality became standard. For them, instant information was the norm. They grew up during a period of rapid change, characterized by globalization and the digital revolution. These events gave a set of preferences, attitudes, and expectations that differ from previous generations. They're the hyper-connected generation, which makes an intensive use of new digital technologies. Their great affinity for technology has given a variety of behaviors and attitudes, such as preference for immediacy. Millennials value the convenience of being able to access information, compare products and services, buy and communicate from anywhere and at any time. This immediacy in the connection with the digital world has become part of the expectations of many millennials. They value the speed, efficiency, ease and simplicity of everything they do, both in the online and offline world. Whereas post-millennials have grown into an economical and cultural force that's hard to ignore. The world's teens and young adults have been behind many of the biggest fashion trends currently and political movements and memes for the last several years. Millennials are less concerned about the cost of housing and education compared to post-millennials. Millennials value stability, whilst post-millennials put more of an emphasis on finding their dream job, which they expect to change as their career develops. Interestingly, millennials did not necessarily follow their parents' influence, while post-millennials are more likely to do so. But the real change in generational attitude in the workplace has been the 2020 to 2022 COVID-19 pandemic. You see, until 2020, the main difference in attitude related to an expectation that people would retrain several times for different jobs rather than have one job for life. The revolution is not on the factory floor for manual work. It's not in the foundry or tradies on the building site. It's not for people in professional or other customer-facing activities. The changes are in the area of IT, administration, internal communication, outsourced work, and corporate activity. And it's also in management. The explosion of working from home triggered by the pandemic is the biggest change to the labour market since World War II, and it appears to be here to stay. Pre the pandemic, working from home accounted for only about 5% of all work days, and it was often disparaged. But now, 40% work remotely, and it's they who owners have to both accept, understand, and manage. Before the pandemic, productivity was measured by hours and work billed and overtime. IT staff may currently do what was previously considered sufficient work, yet now working from home can act for several companies. How work is judged is now being reassessed depending on the way it's approached. Some workers will return to an office, but other work will either be shared or off-site. And shared work used to be called hot desk, which was then considered to be au fait and just not required anymore. But since the pandemic, it's come back because the offices are not used as much as they were. The result could be further development of outsourced activities. Times have rapidly changed. Corporate work will not be judged by hours worked and overtime. Now it's necessary for work to be outcome driven. IT work is no longer judged by tickets completed. Everything will be outcome driven. Judged by the management of projects and amount of billing. So what's the future of overall management? It's time for management to review its approach to the firm, to employees and customers' expectations. The 5 characteristics of business remain the same. The approach by owners and management to the hybrid workers require to be reviewed. Owners and management can no longer make decisions retrospectively. They need to be organised. Those 5 criteria, of course, are planning, skill requirement, company structure, processes and procedures, and company culture. Can the advanced planning be simple? Yes, but it needs a new mindset. So what's the new generation mindset? Every generation requires a new approach. It's not so much the product or service itself. Now, suppliers of a product or service must understand the expectation of both their customers and their employees. So with the customers, when a product or service is purchased, the purchaser is currently more knowledgeable than in earlier times and wants to be treated as such. It's no longer someone who doesn't understand the product be sold by someone who doesn't know what they're selling. Now people have got to understand what it is that they're dealing with. Customers want to know that the firm from which they are purchasing the product or service has them in mind and not just a profit margin. Customers want suppliers to understand their requirements. And what about employees? The new mindset is not just how to manage the productivity of your employees. The 40% of employees who work from home come from all levels. They're everyone from the switchboard to senior management, and they can choose where they work. The new management mindset must understand and motivate both internal and outsourced employees to engage in the company's culture. So what's the biggest issue to overcome? It's necessary to know how to attract, how to keep, motivate, and communicate with your staff. And that's different to how it used to be. But it's just as important nowadays how to keep staff mentally focused and safe and still make a profit. That is, now that people are not in the office together and do not interact daily, a proportion of management meetings will be held by computer connections via Teams or Zoom, etc. But how can you know who offers the best work performance? And how do they know who in the organisation to trust with their problems? Who do they trust to ask questions if they're in trouble or do not understand what they must do? The answer is to find a way to have all those involved meet and communicate. There's no one size fits all, and many organisations are struggling. That's the biggest problem now with management. Work is no longer based on hours worked, it's now outcome based, whether it's work tickets or project activities. Some IT departments try meeting online once a week to communicate, and they do it sometimes through game playing. Other IT departments meet at the office once a week to discuss the outcomes to date of their project. Some office teams meet for lunch once a week or fortnightly to discuss projects and who has issues. Managers must find a way to be in regular communication with everybody in their team without micromanaging. The answer is to find a way to both speak to all staff members wherever they are, and where possible, have all those involved meet at some stage. Within the culture of hybrid working is communication. How do we work successfully with the hybrid workers? By understanding how to communicate and get the best for the company. Now that nearly half of certain areas of business are working off-site, who decides what, when, how, why, and where is carried out by staff? Who decides? Some firms tell their staff what they want and demand that they be obeyed. Others let their staff decide for themselves what they want to do, when to do it, how to do it, and where they do it. The third option is mutually agreed on and off-site activities, ensuring all work is done. Depending on the company and staff, the method chosen can result in harmony and increased productivity, or disruption and failure. Managers must keep in touch personally. There are some consistencies reported by the more successful managers. These managers have some knowledge of emotional competence within their people management skills. Many have participated or have managers participate in a mental health first aid course. They learn when to act early if they suspect an issue. They speak regularly with all their team at the office or working from home and ask, "Are you okay?" You see, management now is not as it used to be, just making decisions. Management is actually leading your team, working with your team, finding out how your team works and making sure that in order for them to get the best out of the team, that you're able to talk to them, to communicate with them. And this is all new. The new management is a work in progress. Management must currently adapt to this new world order. It may remain or it may revert, but don't hold your breath. Now, TAFE and the federal government is aware of the environmental changes since the pandemic. As a result, they're prepared to give business owners and management a special offer. TAFE is now offering a special certificate for entrepreneurs, business owners, and their managers. Instead of charging owners up to $5,000 per person for the course, in 2023, they're offering a 100% subsidy. What else is special about this? Normally, a certificate 4 would take up to 2 years to complete with little personal assistance. For this year, each participant will have their own personal experienced business mentor. The result is that the course can be completed in under 4 months. That is special. Today's management need this course. It is your choice if you wish to take advantage of this offer. For more information, there is a brochure which can be received through contacting TAFE Small Business Solutions on 1300 40 60 80. So what are the takeaways from this talk? Today's manager must, of course, plan, lead, organize, and control. But when working with hybrid staff, they must now also be aware of interactive issues that were either not there or dealt with when they worked on site. Today's manager must really be a leader of the individuals in their team without directly micromanaging. Contact TAFE Small Business Solutions Administration on 1300 40 6080 for the TAFE Certificate 4 for entrepreneurs and new business. So that was my talk on managing between generations and how to understand and work with today's hybrid workforce. Thank you.